challenging as we all have to now collaborate and take care of our teamwork all through, things like this medium today, right? Whether it be Zoom or uh, um, other virtual sessions and all virtually get together. But I got to tell you that the thing that'll carry you as a lifelong skill set and is something that'll carry you furthest in your career is being able to work in a team and collaborate with others, and do that very adeptly. Those folks who like to be quote unquote cowboys and want to be out there on their own and soul stars, um, for a period of time, it may be okay to be a superstar. But there's so many other places you can look around and saying, unless you can collaborate and work with a team, you just won't win the day, right? Even our greatest stars, certainly of my time, like a Michael Jordan or a Derek Jeter, right? Both of those two individuals that I just named played on teams, and they wouldn't have won their respective world championships without the rest of the team there, because they could not have done it alone.
That's great. And thank you, Sammy. Aaron, you had a question.
Yeah. Do you think the current situation is going to change the way companies like ADP or any other tech company would do businesses? And if do, in what way would it change?
So do I think it's going to change? The answer is yes. How exactly and to what it's going to change, not so sure. There's so much uncertainty, and we're literally the script is unfolding in front of our very eyes, right? Like we're in the middle of the movie. I can't tell you how this movie ends. The story is still being written. So will it change? Of course it will change. There are macro factors that are at play right now that we cannot ignore. I'm presuming most of you keep up on current events, but it was what, 5.245, right? So 5,250,000 people just filed for unemployment, in addition to what had already been filed in this last week. These are first-time unemployment claims. I think our grand total number is already, it may have crossed 20 million across the United States. So there are these macro factors at play that for sure will have an impact. And what that impact is, how long that impact lasts, how we come out of this, how things change, I cannot tell you, right? I don't have a crystal ball. Will there be an impact? Sure. How exactly it's going to play out, that is yet to be seen. And I'm telling you, all of us in industry are sitting and grappling with that on a daily basis and talking about it and saying, okay, what are the smart, thoughtful plans that we can put in place, and work our way back, so to speak. And by the way, when I say work our way back, to where we get to may be a different place than where we started from.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Aaron, so much. Andrew Valencia had a question.
Hello. How's it going?
Hi, good.
Yeah, so no, so what I wanted to ask before was, the earlier you explained the report program generator, the RPG. I guess I just want a little more information about that and how that's gonna affect, like, the economy, or how we're going on at this point.
Yeah, did
Sure.
you get people who's talking about RPG?
Yeah, would you mind repeating the question again, Jonathan, please?
Sure. Andrew just wrote, I remember you mentioning RPG, which stands for Report Program Generator. I'd like a little more explanation as to how this works at ADP.
We don't use RPG at ADP. So that and that wasn't that was previously in my career, back in the late 80s, early 90s even. And quite frankly, I haven't touched it since then, right? So it's been a long time of working in RPG. Again, if simply put, it was just another one of those languages like COBOL, right? That language, Fortran, and believe it or not, COBOL code and Fortran code, those languages that were popular way back when, there's been software written in those, and in that software is still running production systems today.
And let's not forget PL1.
Let's not forget PL1.
And the state of New Jersey is actively trying to hire COBOL programmers. So
They absolutely are. Yeah.
That's true.
This is true.
there we go. Josh Lieberman, I believe you are next. Can't hear you, so I'll read your question. Josh asks, you spoke of making...
Oh, that's good. That's awesome.
Oh, beautiful. Okay, go ahead.
Jonathan, you want to?
Yeah, we'll pick that up. Joshua spoke of making IT agile. What has ADP done specifically to make its infrastructure agile?
So I'll give a little bit of what we did. There are two concepts that we implemented, and it was a concept of what we call chapters and a concept of recipes. Chapters are we took people and put people who were doing the same type of work together in a chapter. So if you think about it, like you have your New York City chapter of police and your New Jersey chapter of police and Westchester chapter of police. But what we did is saying, okay, we have our chapter of network engineers and our chapter of database engineers and our chapter of compute engineers. So we had all these different chapters. Then we arranged Scrum teams by taking individuals from each of those chapters and building a recipe. So that recipe was, okay, I need 2 database engineers, I need 1 network engineer, I need 3 computer engineers, and they're going to go work on this objective. And that's what that Scrum team's objective is, to go build this set of tools or this outcome. And so, if you think about a recipe and very literally, a recipe, one, you need a few things, right? For one, you need ingredients, and you get your ingredients by pulling individuals from these chapters. Next, you need the right measurement or the proportion of those ingredients, right? Like in a real world recipe, if you have too much salt or too little salt or too much pepper, you could totally ruin the recipe, right? And then lastly, and most importantly, as important as ingredients, you need what I call chemistry. And the chemistry, again, back to the real world, of do you bake something? Do you fry it? Do you cool it? Do you do it at 300 degrees? Do you do it at 500 degrees? Because a chemical reaction actually takes place for these different ingredients to come together and make a quote unquote tasty recipe. So we set up folks and aligned them by chapters because we had a lot of people doing the similar type of work. Then we took those individuals and built recipes. And those recipes is where the agility came in, because those recipes were focused on specific outcomes. But the recipes were very, very carefully assembled so that you had the right ingredients and the right chemistry so that we could get the job done.
That's great. And Ron, you had a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Very well.
Yeah, so you started a business while you were in college. Currently, since there's a rise of various tech startups and since there's a wider access to information, and it's become way easier for people to start their own businesses, would you say now is easier due to our increased access, or would you say that the the convenience of starting a business and the accessibility to resource has made it harder with increased competition to starting a business from when you started to now?
You might not like my answer, which my answer is it's the same, but for different reasons.
Huh.
Right? And actually it's a very temporal thing, right? There are periods in our history where access to capital has been easier and other times where access to capital has been harder. There are times in our history where because of the technology, the availability to do certain things are easier. But in other times, because of that lack of technology, that was the opportunity to get something done, right? So I don't know if it's any easier or harder, and I've seen both sides of it. I know the struggles of, there's I'll call it the glamour of saying that when you're in a startup and it succeeds, but the reality and the statistics, and this is going back, decades, is that for every time one company succeeds, there are 1,000 that fail. That was true today. That is true today. That was true 10 years ago. That was true 20 years ago. That was probably true 50 years ago, right? So that's why I don't think it's changed. But I think the factors that can make a given idea succeed or fail are different. So I think it was hard then, and I think it's hard now. We may think that it's very glamorous when we look at the Zuckerbergs of the world or the Bill Gates of the world and those types of things. But there's a lot of heartache you don't see in there in order to get these things done. Every now and then, absolutely, lightning strikes and a spark goes off and something works, magically, beautifully well. But most of the time, it's a little joke I say, I'm an overnight success after 30 years, right? It takes a lot to get there.
Could you attest a little bit to the factors that have changed, or to the factors that might be?
Sure. I think like where we are, right, and specifically, and talking from a technologist angle, this is one thing that we as technologists, way back when, decades back, talked about, was what we called ubiquitous technology, and in fact, technology permeating our day-to-day, everyday, normal lives so much that you even forget you're using technology, right? The very fact that this very system that we're all on today, I mean, I'll just give you the numbers, right? I mean, these guys went from 10 million subscribers to 200 million subscribers in the last month, users of Zoom. I mean, and it's something of that nature. It's like, or maybe they went from 60 million to 200 million, or 20 million to 200 million is what it was. Yeah, but it's an entire order of magnitude. Because, and by the way, this is because of something that's very easily now available. If we even thought about this 10 years ago, I don't know what this conversation would have been like.
Oh,
so I think there are factors where certain technologies are very just ubiquitous and easily available, right? Like your smartphone, as an example. So those factors make it easier. But on the flip side, you want to know a factor that makes it harder? It actually in some regards, lowered the bar for anyone who has a great idea.
Interesting. And there was a good follow-up question from, let's see, from Andrew. You had a follow-up to Ron's question and Nipul's response.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds good. Yeah, so essentially I was just trying to ask, like, so is it safe to say that, like, anyone looking to start up a business or an LLC or any sort of, like, their own type of company right now, should they wait until the pandemic is over, or should they get to it right now and, take advantage of the situation?
Look, that's a very interesting question, and I do think, look, out of every time we have, some type of an event like what's going on right now, there certainly are some opportunities that come out of this, and if you've got the right idea and you've got the fortitude and the capital and the skills and the people, right, to carry you through to execute on that idea, there's nothing that says you shouldn't do it now. I will tell you, there's probably more barriers today than even 3 months ago, in that when we do come out of this, the access to capital is likely going to be difficult. On the flip side, you might have a very high access to human capital if that human capital doesn't want to get paid. Quite frankly, you might find a lot of people who have some available time now, which just 3 months ago, at 3% unemployment didn't exist. But try going to a bank and asking for a loan, that's likely going to be more difficult. I don't know for a fact, but I'm going to just, logically think that's going to be more difficult in the forthcoming months than it was even a quarter back.
Wow. And Liza, you had a question.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for taking time to do this.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I don't have my video working today. I don't have one on my computer. But my question is about ADP. And I know that you talked about change and how everyone sees it possibly negative. It's frightening to change. But I was wondering if
No, I agree with you.
ADP is working on any way for companies and employees to receive their paychecks sooner. So our payroll cycle is going to be changing in the near future, or how is ADP addressing this?
That's a great question. I mean, look, there have been industry-wide trends on things what we call instant pay and daily pay, and those trends do change also a little bit by industry. So I can give you one example where, there are a number of people, quite frankly, in this country that live paycheck to paycheck. And so it's really important for them. And it's really important for them to get paid on a timely manner, and very difficult for them necessarily to get paid once a month and try to manage their budget for that entire month. Oftentimes, they need to get paid, on a certain day, or maybe even daily, so they could continue to buy lunch and buy dinner, and then put some money aside to pay rent at the end of the month. And they're not necessarily the best at planning that money out. But the reality is that yes, there are with the the gig economy, and by that I mean people who work on a short-term basis, or work one gig to the next gig, and other factors going around. There really is this movement towards pay should be personalized to the individual, as opposed to pay should be dictated by the company making the payments, right? And if you think about it, payroll has actually been set up for all these years more in favor of the company making the payments than necessarily the people who need the money, which is the individuals who have to get paid. So we are constantly thinking about this. We've actually released and deployed solutions that allow people to get paid much more in a real-time manner, and we've done that on a limited basis, and we're working on that now, and seeing what does it mean to do this on a more wide-scale, full-scale basis, and just the idea of how you get paid. Like, does it even have to go to a bank account, or rather can it go to a payment card? And how people do their quote-unquote banking and payments. We are looking at that again, top to bottom, all the way throughout the every aspect of it.
Okay, yeah, that's awesome, because I think this is definitely a big issue going on. Some people I've heard in studies, they said that if they could have had their pay 2 days earlier, it could have made a difference in making particular payments, like you mentioned, with people who do live paycheck to paycheck. So I'm glad it's at the forefront of ADP's future planning. Thank you.
Yeah, and but here's the piece that sounds great again for the individual, but you have to realize then that for the payers, right, the employers who are making the payments, they've still got taxes to pay. The federal government, the state government, the local government, they still want their taxes. They still put it as responsibility of the employer to get those taxes right, to quote unquote pull the taxes out of the employee's paycheck and remit them on behalf of the employee to the government, right? So there's actually a lot of challenges that go into that as well too. And so there's multiple factors that go into it. So it's not the easiest thing, right? And then what happens if I get paid on a daily basis, and I'm expecting to get paid on a daily basis, but I as an employee quit halfway through the month, right? how should, what if the company is ahead or behind on taxes or different things of that nature. So there's actually multiple factors that go into it.
Okay, thank you so much. Makes sense.
Yeah, and I had heard recently that there was an email scam going around where they were sending emails from employees saying, I've changed my banking information. Can you please change my direct deposit to this? And folks were going ahead and putting it through. So, there's just an awful lot to contend with there. Helen, you had a nice question.
Hello. Earlier you said that the number one skill to have is collaboration. So do you think that COVID-19 is making it more difficult or easier to collaborate with your peers?
You know what? I can speak from my personal vantage point, my viewpoint. This is a very unique situation. All of us, literally all of us in the company went home at the same time, right? So all of us, like in the US, we I don't know, had 95%, 90% of our workforce go home within 3-4 days and start working from home. We literally moved, people from coming into offices and working in offices, 50,000, more than 50,000 people. It's like maybe 55,000 people within the matter of like 8 to 10 days, where they're now all working from home. And on the one hand, I can tell you this, is that through the modern technology tools that we have, right, like video conferencing and Slack-like features where you see a constant stream of flow of information, we've actually been able to collaborate very well, just do it in a different manner, and everyone kind of jump in and jump on problems very quickly. And I've been actually very, very truly pleased with the high level of collaboration that we've gotten. I think what has made that possible are these tools. So for us, it's worked positively in our favor. I don't know if that's been the same for everyone else. And by the way, there's certain industries where this wouldn't necessarily be true. Even for us, there are certain job functions where it's made it a little bit more difficult. I think you might have been the one saying earlier that you were doing some design and artwork where you have to draw it on a picture and draw it on paper and take pictures. Clearly, like our UI UX folks that doing user interface and user experience, that's been a bit more challenging because they're a lot more effective, A, when they're sitting together, but B, when they're sitting in front of their users and observing their users. Really difficult to observe your user when they're at the other end of a computer screen. But by and large, for the other groups, we've been able to collaborate really well through this. So I don't think there's a universal answer that is it better or worse. It depends on the company and it depends on the type of work that you're doing. We've been able to make a positive motion out of this. Don't know if it's been the same for everyone else.
Thank you.
Great. And we have time for just a couple more questions. And Mihir, you're next.
Yes. So I know a lot of students are losing their internships because of this pandemic. And do you happen to know anything because normally they don't allow interns to work from home. Many companies don't. But luckily for me at JP Morgan next summer, they're letting me do that. What's the situation at ADP? And what would you say to people on how to manage?
Sure. So we have made the decision to not rescind any of our intern offers or any of our new hire offers for graduates coming out of college this summer. We have made some adjustments, meaning our internship program normally lasts 10 weeks, and this year it'll be shortened to 8 weeks. So it's starting 2 weeks later in the hopes that we might be able to get back to the office. But if we can't, we are entirely building a plan that we could do the internship virtually throughout the 8 weeks that our interns are with us. Our college graduating class, we have moved the start dates for those sets of classes by 30 days. So they're now going to start 30 days later. a month later than what was originally planned, but we've not rescinded any offers. We've just made adjustments.
That's great. I don't know, Jane, if you want to share anything on that. I mean, we've heard a lot of good news about companies and their plans for interns this summer.
Yeah, we've been quite lucky, I believe. A lot of the employers that we've been working with and the students who have internships are also committed to completing those internships, albeit exactly as you said, some of them are starting a little bit later in hopes that things could go back to normal. But the tech industry seems to be doing well still, as you were saying, Vipul, and that's quite good for us, of course. Yeah. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for continuing to give students the opportunities to intern and begin their workout, as soon as they graduate, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's near and dear to my heart. Like it's what, a program that I've established here at ADP, and it's also a program that when I was at Bloomberg, I ran over there too, where it's a large amount of graduating students that we hire in, because I really truly do believe that in the term I use, contemporary talent. Today's talent that's graduating out of universities is contemporary talent. And I believe the long-term success of any company is that you must continually keep bringing in fresh contemporary talent, combine that with experience, put those two things together, and you get a really good combination.
And there's no better way to get that experience than doing an internship while the student is still in school. So that's always a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, thank you both for that. And Maria, I believe you had a related question. Maria?
You're on mute, Maria. So sorry. Yeah, so I had another question about the internship, because I'm in the process of looking for one right now. So the main thing that bothers me is to how overcome the feeling that you don't have enough practical experience so far to compete with more experienced students who already had internship before, especially in the circumstances we are right now, and what accents should be emphasized in the search while looking for internship. Thank you.
Yeah, look, it's you've got to, again, I can't speak for any other company or anyone else. I can just speak for what we do. We're very understanding. Like I don't expect you to come in with tons and tons of experience, right? It's just that's not realistic. You're still in school. You're still learning things. But I'll tell you what I do expect. What I do expect is what I call learning agility. Your ability to pick up the next new topic, your ability to be inquisitive, your ability to want to be inquisitive and continually be inquisitive and to learn and quickly apply what you've learned into the next project, into the next line of code that you write, into the next program that you release. That is what I'm looking for, and that is what I expect, right? If you've been working for 20 years, then I have a whole different set of expectations, right? But when you've not had any work experience, it's more about how quickly you can adapt, be flexible, how quickly you can learn, be inquisitive, and really show up with the right attitude. Look, success in your career is going to come down to two things. Really, at the end of the day, two simple things. It's what I call aptitude and attitude. You have to have the aptitude, the ability to do something. And then you have to have the attitude, the desire to want to do it. I could have the desire to want to score 100 points in a basketball game. And by the way, I'm not short. I'm not that short. I'm 6'5", right? But in the NBA, that's really short, right? And I can have the desire to want to score 100 points in a game. The reality is I just don't have the ability to do it. Okay. I might have the attitude. I certainly don't have that aptitude, right? On the flip side, I may have a great aptitude, but I just don't want to play the game. Well, that's not going to get me success there either, right? So you got to have both. There's a certain amount of skills, and as an intern, there are certain skills I expect you to have, and others that I don't expect you to have. But the most thing that matters early on in your career is that base aptitude with high attitude, and then as you go on in further into your career, they'll start balancing out more because there'll be a higher expectation on your aptitude as well too.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, I think we need to wrap up here, but as we go through that process, Howard, who is leads the Seidenberg Advisory Board, just wanted to give you a moment to say hello and say thank you to Vipul.
I can't thank Vipul enough. He has inspired us. Vipul, you're talking about a lot of the points that we talk to. I'm involved with Dr. Hill on a mentoring program, and a lot of the key points that you're making about collaboration, flexibility, tenacity, and commitment are all the ones that we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks as it relates to this new work environment. And I also was really pleased that you mentioned all the variability in the times and the technologies that are out there, and how we really need to maximize our view of both of them in order to be successful. Because I, like you, have had many changes in my career, and it's the people who can be flexible, the people who can be collaborative, the people who can be passionate that really get the job done. So congratulations on your being acknowledged for this honor to speak to us today. I look forward to eventually meeting you in person.
Yes.
And by the way, I live about 3 drivers and a 5-wood from the ADP headquarters here in Roseland, so I pass it every day. So,
oh, okay.
So thank you so much. You've really hit on a lot of the key factors for success. And for me, as somebody who's an advisor, I found you inspiring. I can't even imagine how inspiring you have been to all of the Seidenberg participants. So thank you, and continued good luck and continued support for all of that you at ADP are doing during this very challenging time.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. And I just want to acknowledge and thank so much Det Sao, our wonderful Director of Development, and her colleague Brandon Cole, who've done a tremendous amount of work to put this all together. So thank you both very, very much. And thank you, students and staff and faculty and alumni from the Seidenberg community who've come out to welcome one of our own back. And Vipul, what a wonderful time. This was a blast. Thank you so much for being so receptive and so open. And we can only imagine, based on your comments, how very busy you are. So thank you for coming to be with us today. Welcome home. And I trust that we'll be able to welcome you back onto the premises before too long.
I hope it's sooner rather than later. So, but thank you very much. And, you know, again, I think this was a perfect example today where we were in a situation that this is the only way we could do it was virtually. And hopefully you all got the best out of it as much as we could for today. But thank you all for having me.
Yes, and
Yes, thank you. Yeah, sorry, Jonathan. Thank you, Vipul. And I just
Thank you, Vipul.
Iterate everybody's sentiments here. I also, just for housekeeping as well, if anybody on this, wonderful meeting have follow-up questions, or requests, please email me directly. I'm at dsao@edu, and I'm more than happy to facilitate, any follow-up requests or questions that you have, particularly, if they concern Vipul. This session has also been recorded, so we'll have that as a resource, for you or to share with others because of, so much substance that during our time together. And I just want to iterate again, Dean, gratitude to everybody.
All right. Stay safe. Thank you all.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks, Vipul.
Thank you. We'll see everyone again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank